Okay, so picture this. It's the Cold War. Everything is tense, right? Secrets are being passed in hushed cones on park benches, always just out of earshot. The CIA, well, they need a whole new kind of spy, one that could get incredibly close, but nobody would ever suspect a thing. An agent that's sneaky, fast, and completely and utterly ordinary.
I mean, it sounds like a joke, right? Something you'd see in a spy movie parody. But what if I told you this wasn't fiction? Okay, let's get into it because the United States government actually spent millions of dollars trying to answer that exact question.
So get this, it was called Project Acoustic Kitty. And yes, this was a very real, top secret CIA project that kicked off back in the 1960s. The goal was, well, it was ambitious, it was bold, and let's be honest, it was completely bonkers to surgically alter a regular house cat into a walking, purring, sophisticated listening device.
Now, to even begin to understand why they do this, you have to remember what the Cold War was like. It was all about paranoia. Espionage was the name of the game, but there were these blind spots, places where the usual spy tricks just wouldn't work.
I mean, think about it. How do you bug a secret conversation that's happening on a random park bench? A human agent would stick out like a sore thumb. A planted bug could be swept for and found. But a cat? A cat can just wander anywhere. It can curl up under a bench, stroll right through an embassy garden, and nobody would look twice. In theory, it was the perfect disguise.
So the idea was there, but actually making it happen, that took this really strange and kind of unsettling mix of veterinary medicine and cutting-edge spy tech. They weren't just, strapping a recorder onto a cat. Oh no. They were building the technology directly into the animal.
The whole thing was just wild. This was a complex one-hour surgery. A vet put a tiny microphone right inside the cat's ear canal. A radio transmitter was embedded at the base of its skull. The antenna? It was the super thin wire that they literally wove into its fur so it would be totally invisible. And maybe the most disturbing part of all, they did a whole separate surgery just to mess with its sense of hunger, because they figured a hungry cat would get distracted and wander off.
And the cost for this 5-year-long experiment in feline espionage? Well, the best estimates we have put the price tag at around $20 million. And remember, that's in 1960s money. We are talking about hundreds of millions in today's dollars. All for one cat.
This quote from Victor Marchetti, who was a CIA officer at the time, really says it all. No matter how much the agency claimed the procedures were humane, what they created was something else. It was a living, breathing creature turned into a piece of surveillance equipment. So after 5 years of work and millions of dollars spent, the cyborg cat was finally ready for its first mission. The scene was set, the plan was ready to go. But, as you're about to find out, the gap between the plan and reality was, well, it was huge. The mission itself was classic spy novel stuff. The targets were 2 guys having a top-secret chat in a park, right across from the Soviet embassy. The plan was simple: release the acoustic kitty from a van nearby, let it wander over to the bench like any normal cat, and start recording. What could possibly go wrong? And this is where the story gets a little murky, as all good spy stories do. For years, the version everyone told, the one from insiders like Marchetti, was that the cat was released, took maybe a few steps toward the park, wandered into the street, and was immediately flattened by a taxi. A $20 million 5-year project over in less than a minute. But in 2013, another CIA veteran came out and said that whole story was just an inside joke that got out of hand. His version? The project was just scrapped because, well, cats are impossible to train. They took the equipment out, and the cat lived a long, happy life. The real truth is probably buried somewhere in that Cold War fog. But here's the real twist in the story. Project Acoustic Kitty might have been a spectacular failure, but it wasn't a one-off crazy idea. Oh no. The CIA's obsession with using animals for spycraft went way, way beyond one unlucky cat. We're talking about a whole zoo's worth of secret agents. Yep, you heard that right. The CIA's animal division had spy pigeons with cameras, robotic catfish taking water samples, dragonfly-sized drones, and it gets even weirder, with dead rats and even fake tiger droppings being used for secret missions. The pigeon program was actually pretty smart. Think about it. Spy planes are flying tens of thousands of feet up, satellites are even higher, but a pigeon with a tiny automatic camera on its chest could fly low over a target, say a Soviet weapons facility, and get incredibly detailed photos without anyone ever looking up. And then you have Charlie, the robotic catfish. This was basically an underwater drone that looked like a fish, controlled by a guy with a radio. Its job? To swim up to a suspicious factory, slurp up a water sample to check for things like nuclear waste or chemical weapons, and swim away without a trace. But maybe the most sci-fi idea of them all was the insectopter. This was a tiny drone the size of a dragonfly that was supposed to be a laser-guided bug. It could actually fly 200 meters in a minute. The only tiny problem? It was so light that a breeze of more than 5 miles an hour would just send it tumbling out of the sky. So, not exactly practical. And this is where the problem-solving just gets hilarious. The CIA hollowed out dead rats to use for dead drops, hiding microfilm or money inside. The problem? The neighborhood cats kept thinking it was a free meal and would steal the spy rats. For the Vietnam War, they made a listening device that looked exactly like a tiger dropping to track enemy soldiers. And that one, believe it or not, worked perfectly. So what do you do when cats keep stealing your secret messages? Well, if you're the CIA, you go to the lab. They actually experimented by soaking the rat carcasses in stuff cats hate, like super hot chili sauce. They found the absolute best cat deterrent was apparently wormwood oil. You just can't make this stuff up. So, after all these strange, expensive, and let's face it, often comical experiments, what was the big takeaway? What did the CIA learn from the spy cat that got hit by a car and the dragonfly drone that couldn't handle a slight breeze? In the end, the lesson wasn't about technology at all. They proved they could make a microphone tiny enough for a cat's ear or a camera light enough for a pigeon. The one problem they could never, ever solve was just nature. An animal is going to do what an animal is going to do. A cat is going to get distracted. A pigeon might just decide to fly home. You can't program instinct out of a living thing. And that brings us right back to the end of the Acoustic Kitty story. This single line from the declassified memo shutting the project down is just perfect. After all that time, all that money, the official conclusion was the most boring, bureaucratic understatement imaginable. It would not be practical. These stories are just such a wild window into how far countries are willing to go to get an edge. And it does make you wonder, right? In today's world of tiny drones, powerful AI, and satellites that can read a license plate from space, is there still a role for animals in spying? And if there is, what animal would make the perfect spy today? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this dive into one of history's weirdest secret projects, do me a favor and hit that like button. And subscribe for more explainers on stories you won't believe are actually true. Thanks for watching.